Begin. Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Injectables EDU webinar, From RN to Aesthetic Entrepreneur, a roadmap to success. I will be your host for today's event. My name is Megan Reed, and joining me are a couple of fantastic women. Hold on, there we go. We have got our speakers with us in the house today is Suzanne Jacker and Cassie Lane. Hello, ladies.
Hi.
Good morning.
Here.
Suzanne Jagger is the founder of Aura Aesthetics, Aura Academy, Aesthetic Connect, and the co-owner lead trainer at Injectables EDU. If you are part of our Facebook group online, you will probably also see her face every week as she does a lot of live videos drilling into a ton of micro topics, stress points, things of that nature. If you have questions, Suzanne is your lady on Facebook. And then joining me as well as Cassie Lane. Cassie is the founder of Cassie Lane Aesthetics, the co-owner and lead trainer, as well as lead author at Injectables EDU. If you've already peeked around Injectables EDU, which I hope you have, you probably found a ton of free resources and blog posts, and those are really written by Cassie herself. So she's a fanatic about sharing her information, and thank you so much, Cassie, for always putting out such great info.
I wanted, before you advance from this slide, I really wanted to point out one thing.
The claw hand.
Yes, I wanted to make sure we didn't miss pointing out the claw hand on this photo.
No.
Yeah, I only have 3 fingers.
Right here, ladies. This is where everyone's talking about. And
Yeah.
I actually was going to make a joke about this.
It was a tragic injecting accident.
That's
I
right.
did. I checked the original photo before I turned it black and white. And for whatever reason, Suzanne, you do have your thumb and your, you did that. So that is not, you normally do have those, but for whatever reason, you hit them. Yeah.
I prefer it this way.
I prefer the tragic injecting accident, though. That's good.
So if these women look familiar, especially for Suzanne's claw hand, you might have recently seen them at a number of conferences around the nation. They also are the hosts of their own conference called the Injectables EDU Summit. It happens every spring, and it's happening this spring on March 1st through the 3rd in Orlando, Florida. I will also be there as well. I'll be covering a lot of marketing information for you guys. Okay, let's go over a couple of just fun little housekeeping notes. As you probably noticed, this call is being recorded. So after today's call, you will be getting an email later this week with a link to the recording so you can watch it on demand whenever you would like. And we had over 200 questions come in for this webinar. But if you still have a question that you would like Suzanne or Cassie to address, please use the chat box that's available to you. Please put that in, as if we do not get to it on this webinar. This is why you want to be part of our Facebook group, because like I said, Suzanne's on there a ton doing lives, and so she will be pulling from these questions. So yes, you still have a great opportunity to get your question addressed by Suzanne or Cassie. And guys know it's just going to be such a juicy webinar when I have to do legal information. To keep our lawyers happy, the information provided today is intended as general guidance, and it's not intended to convey specific tax, medical, or legal advice. If you needed a legal opinion, please consult your lawyer. And the views expressed are those of the discussion leaders and do not necessarily reflect the official positions of Injectables EDU. Well, with that, I'm going to go ahead and let Suzanne take it over. She is going to run you through, like I said, a roadmap to success on how to get out of the clinic and to get into running your own Botox business.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for that awesome intro. And yeah, I really just I'm excited about this because we've had a lot more discussion in the group and with our calls, because Cassie and I also, if you want to book a consulting call with us, if you have a question, we do have 20-minute consulting calls that you can book through the website. If you want to learn more about our classes, about a situation that you're in and whether our class is a good fit for you, or more about the conference, feel free to book one of those. But a lot of times it's coming up a lot of, how do I get from where I'm at now, which is in the clinic, to doing something else? So let's talk about that. So if we want to advance the slide. Can I do it? Oh, there we go. So mobile. So some of you may have seen me talk about this, but there's really 3 kinds of businesses you can open, right? And the first one that's the easiest to get started at, this is where a lot of people get started, is we call her Mobile Mary. And this is all about getting your foot in the door in the industry You know, it's a really easy, it's a low barrier to entry. You don't have to take much risk or overhead. And so in that way, you can open your business virtually within like 30 days of deciding you're going to do it. There is lots of groundwork you need to do regardless. Like you have to get an LLC and you have to get a bank account, and you have to get a credit card, and you have to learn how to inject, which we can help you with. We know a girl or two. You know, you need to have some of those things. But beyond that, once you do some of the basic groundwork that we can help you with, you're able to, you know, see 1 or 100 patients a month, you know, if you want to do that. The thing with being mobile and where people kind of go wrong is that they think that that is the gateway to leaving leaving their daytime, their W-2 job. That you're going to go learn how to inject, that you're going to start driving around seeing patients, and that's going to be enough money to probably support you. And I'm going to say, sadly, probably not. And why is that? Well, I mean, how many people does it take you like half an hour just to get to Costco, right? When you're driving around all these places, it is a huge time suck. And so it is a very inefficient way to see patients. Cassie, how long are your Botox appointments at the office? Like 20 minutes, 30 minutes?
Yeah, 30 minutes.
30 minutes. Yeah, we do 20 minutes in our office. So I can see 3 patients an hour. And if the average patient takes about 50 units, you know, so that's and we charge $15 a unit here. So let me pull out my handy dandy calculator. I'm using my calculator from the summit last year. It even says it. Everyone got a summit calculator because numbers are important. You know, so it's a $750 visit. And I can do 3 of those an hour, right? So I can be generating $2,200 in an hour. And even if you went and you charge $15 a unit, the most you're gonna be able to see, you know, in an hour is 1 patient, because you got to get there. You got to set up, you got to make pleasantries, you got to find someplace clean, right? The other thing to think about is that when you're mobile, how many people love having people over to their house? Anyone? Is your house clean right now? I'm going to tell you that the status of my island is it is a collection of sporting equipment, lunch boxes. My husband has some stuff that's going back to Home Depot. My, you know, couch is covered in laundry, some of it clean, some of it dirty. And that is not exactly what I'm excited for someone to come see. So it really limits, you know, who is willing to have you come to their house to do an injection. Not to mention if they're stay-at-home mom, they got 3 kids, 2 dogs, and a cat running around. This is not a clean, comfortable environment. So while it just really limits who you can see and how fast you can see them. And so that becomes a problem in growing your business. All right. Anything you want to add to that, Cassie?
Yeah. I also, one thing that drives me crazy is you just don't have your good light and you don't have your good
Yes.
chair and stuff. And you're not in your setting where you're comfortable and you don't do your best work, truthfully, in that setting.
True.
So I've found I'm a huge fan of Botox parties. It really grew my business on them. So don't get us confused to think that we aren't a fan of
Right.
marketing tools, which I think Botox parties are a great one because you recruit 1 patient and they recruit whatever your minimum is. So they're a great marketing tool, but I think you're also then limited in the services that you can offer there because you're not doing filler in a mobile fashion, or at least we're in the camp that we don't think that you should, even though it's in most places not illegal to do that. We feel like because that's a sterile implant that it should be done, you know, in your setting that, you know, you can make sterile.
Yeah.
I think Botox parties, great tool. Love them. And I think you can get some new clients. It sets you apart from other people who are not willing to travel. However, I think it's a piece of a puzzle that ideally should include some sort of non-moving or consistent location.
Yeah. I mean, it's a place, and again, it's a jumping off point. This is how I got started. I got started on the back of my car. As I started to like learn what I wanted to do and how I wanted to do it, there's nothing wrong with using it as a jumping off point or as a hobby business. If you want a hobby and you're like, this is just fun for me, I work full time, I just want to see a couple girlfriends, I'll drive around, I'll play, you know, Botox bunny person and like come make them feel pretty. Totally. And you know, that's a great fun hobby business. And you can make a couple $1,000 a month easily doing that. Plus get a good deal on your own Botox. So it's great for that. It's not great if you're like, you know what, I want to leave my full-time job and that this is the end goal. This is a jumping off point to better things. So, all right. I think I drilled that into the ground. So what's the next best thing? This is really, if you're really committed to doing something with your business, this is the way to go. This is finding a one-room space. All right. Whether it's part-time, and that's, some people think, oh, I have to have it all the time. No, 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 no. What if you share it with somebody else? What if you share it with someone who has a complementary business, like a massage therapist or a lash girl, or someone who does microblading? Someone else that can use that chair when you're still at the hospital or clinic, and you can go use their, you guys can use the space and not compete against each other necessarily, but complement each other and co-refer. That's always great. What's beautiful about having your own space is that you have a power of a location. Google can find you now, which is a great way in order to get business. Is Google is the number one, search tool, right? To get people to your business, to know that you exist. So you now have something you can grow with. It is a little bit higher risk because you're usually signing a lease, typically a year or more. You're on the hook for paying that lease. But now you have a shipping location. That's no longer a problem because you can't typically ship to your house. You now have a place of business. It's clean, it's safe, it's more efficient. You can actually see those 3 patients an hour and generate some real income in an efficient way. So this is really the place that you can jump off and go. If you are thinking like you want to grow a business, you can, as a solo injector, make $1 million a year in gross sales. I know that can boggle your mind. Like, it is absolutely doable. Do you have to hustle? Is it a real job? Are you working really hard? Yeah, 1,000%. I'm not saying it's easy or average. That is not the average result. All right. But is it doable? Yep. Completely 1,000% doable.
Agreed. My 2 cents on that would be when you're choosing this room or this space, whether it's something like a sola salon, which you are going to be in there with a bunch of hairdressers and individual providers, or if you rent a room that's extra and something like a lash bar, something like that, whatever it may be mindful of the part of town that you want to eventually end up in, because you're going to target that part of town from day one. Because once you build up this clientele and it's time to grow and move, this clientele is not going to want to travel 20 minutes away to come see you. Many people will, but it's kind of like your dentist, like you're willing to travel so far, but be mindful of that part of town. And if you're going into another space, is this something that's going to attract your ideal client or a good client base?
Yeah. I see a lot of people are like, well, but I already work in a chronic pain clinic. Well, I'm sorry. Love taking care. Anesthesia is my background. I understand chronic pain, but your chronic pain patient, your Botox patient are on totally different ends of the spectrum. And that is not attracting the same kind of business. So think about that kind of stuff. Is it complementary? Are your ideal clients willing to go there?
Yeah. And neither is your house, because I had this same idea. I was going to, I had my husband looking for a conversion van that was going to spec out and drive around and treat people in that. And I loved that idea. I was really into it. And then it doesn't really make a whole lot of sense ultimately. And that's more of a commitment than leasing a room. Honestly, it is more expensive to go do something like that than it is to lease a room. And then the other thing that I get a lot is like, oh, well, I'll just pretty much do it out of my house. I'll convert a room or a detached garage or whatever. I'm not a big fan of that, because I think people are coming, they're paying you hundreds of dollars to see you for a short amount of time. And there's a level of professionalism. I kind of always say, like, we're not cutting hair out of our garage here. We're doing medical procedures. So I think that in my opinion, which is just my opinion, that it's not best done out of your house. And then you run into issues of shipping. No, none of these companies are going to ship to your home. So that's my 2 cents on that. But those are normal things that we all think is like, oh, I'm going to, get this van, or I'm going to get a bus, or I'm going to do a detached garage for my home. And I have thought about this a lot, and I really think the reason for it is that the second that you commit to this lease, you've put it into the world for real, and you could fail. And that's why we have such a mental block on it. And I had that same mental block, and I've talked to so many people, Suzanne and I both have, with the consulting calls, and we hear it over and over and over. And it's scary because the second you sign that lease, you can publicly fail. you're truly admitting to yourself that you are doing this, and that breeds some fear, but that's normal, and you can't succeed without any risk of failure.
Totally. Yeah, exactly. I will also say that there's zoning issues with doing it out of your house and OSHA issues with doing it out of your house. The state, the city have rules on this stuff. So it's typically not going to be a go anyway. So there's that. All right, moving on. All right, Baller Bajorge. And I mean, come on, that name alone needs to be trademarked. Baller Bajorge, man, she's not messing around. She's like, screw this. I'm burning the boats. I'm all in. I'm building a med spa. I'm going to have multiple treatment rooms. It's going to be 2,000 square feet. We're going to do facials. We're going to do laser. We're going to do weight loss. We're going to do Botox, fillers, the whole I'm going to have a whole team, right? Well, once you do that, your earning potential is now infinite, basically, but so is your risk and overhead. Okay. So this is the thing that you want to grow to, and you can, as I did it. I went from my car to 1 room to 3 rooms to 6 rooms. And here we go. Like, that is a path that you can walk, or you can start here, but it takes an enormous amount of capital to get there, risk, and time. This is not something you do while you work your full-time job. This is your new full-time job. This is your new full-time job. And that's a question we get a lot, is like, oh, I want to start a business, but I have 3 kids. I work 5 days a week. And, my son's in competitive soccer. You're like, super. So tell me how and when, most importantly, are you going to do this? Like, this becomes, I am going to involve my entire life into building this business. And it can be super rewarding and scary. Okay. But this is how you really build an asset that is, one, sellable if you build it from the ground up to sell eventually. This is how you can make millions in revenue because you have enough resources generating in that direction to build something that can replace that income. I mean, one thing that you need to think about in general when you are trying to figure out, can I replace my income with this this injecting business, is roughly about 1/3 of your money that you take in, your sales, goes to paying you, 1/3. So if you want to make $100,000, you need to sell $300,000. That's what you have in payroll. Now, when you have just you driving around or just you in a room, that's great. You can take the whole payroll cost because it's just you. But as soon as you have a team, and to get to those millions of dollars of sales, you're going to need help. You're going to need front desk. You're going to need marketing. You're going to need accounting. You're going to need people to help you get there. No one does this alone. But that also eats into what you get to take home. So that's one thing that we talk a lot about at the conference, is making that leap from this like casual business to this full committed business, so that you can make those multiples of income and pay yourself and pay your team well. So, and it's a trick, man. It is a real trick, but it's totally, totally doable.
You can tell which one we're definitely a big fan. I think we endorse for most scenarios, either usually starting at that leasing, or even having a consistent pop-up somewhere, just some sort of consistent space, or the mobile, because with this, it's wonderful and so much success can come, but usually you want to get your feet wet, a little wet, before you kind of go all in on a $4,000 a month lease or something like that for a whole med spa space.
4,000. I mean, mine's 8 and it hasn't even maxed out. Like, it's going to be 10 by the time my lease ramps up. So like, that's the kind of $10,000 a month. So $100,000 a year, $120,000 a year in just rent payments. So like, it's next level and next level money. And you just have to build to it. And that's the thing. It's just like going to the gym, man. You start walking on the treadmill, and then you add in a weight or two, and then you add in some compound movements, and then you all of a sudden are doing a bikini competition, right? I mean, not me, but this, thank you, semaglutide. Anyway, the whole point is that you build to get there. And so by the time you get there, you're prepared, you have trained for this day, and you're ready to go.
Love it.
Cool. All right. So let's talk some cash facts. I love this. So one of the questions, how much do I need in order to leave my full-time job and replace my W-2 income? So I gave you that rule of thumb that roughly a third of what you bring in goes to paying you. Now, when you have very, very low overhead, you can make that almost half, but you still have to take into account cost of goods, COGS. You need to think about taxes. You need to think about overhead, because almost as soon as you start a business, you're going to need an account. You're going to need a bookkeeper. Like, you're going to need to pay these people. You're going to need a website. That means you're going to have some help with your website and some marketing and some SEO and stuff like that. So no matter what, all that money is not coming to you. We all wish it were. So I would like for you to think about, if you have almost no overhead, half of what you make in sales. And so how do you figure out, how many units? Like, I did some math this morning. I even wrote, I was all proud of myself. I made a little equation. Like, so you can figure out how much you want to make by essentially figuring out how many units you need to sell. So if you say, and I'm just going to shout out some numbers, and you can go back and write this down if you want, but let's say you start things at $12 a unit. You're going to sell $12 a unit. That's a pretty standard price. I'd love to see you at 14, not going to lie, right? You're going to sell it. Now, your average cost, a consumable cost of a unit of neurotoxin is, say, $5. All right. So that means that every unit you sell, you get to take home $7. So now we're going to figure out what your net profit is, right? So net profit is 7 times, let's see, you see 5 patients in a week and they each get 50 units. That's a pretty standard. So 5 times 7, that's $1,750 to see those 5 patients in your pocket after consumables costs. That can be pretty great. This is why I tell people, like, if you're willing to hustle a little bit and even just drive around, it is not unreasonable to see 5 patients a week, right? And now you're pocketing, if you're doing that 5 times a week, you're pocketing $7,000 a month in extra income, like, for not a ton of hustle. All right. Now you still have to pay taxes. Let's take a chunk off that. So after taxes, let's say $5,000 a month. That's not too shabby. Now you start to see, oh, okay. Now, if I actually had a space and invested in having a place, and I could actually see, twice as many patients, now the numbers start really making sense. The numbers really make sense. So hopefully now you have a little bit of a tool to kind of figure out what you have to generate in order to make as much money as you want to make. So cool. And then how long does it take? Well, so that's a great question. As soon as you start telling people that you're going to start doing injections, everyone comes out of the word work. Oh my God, I'm so excited you're going to do it. I'm totally going to come to you. Right. So that's sweet. Most people want to make you happy and be supportive and say nice things and encourage you. But only a fraction of those people are like, oh my God, I'm so excited. I'm totally going to come to you. And then they're going to show up and they're like, well, you're going to give me a deal, right? I mean, you're new at this, right? Oh, you can practice on me. You can you can use your free stuff on me. Nobody gets free Botox. Nobody, not my mother. They joke every time I say that. I charge my mother $8 a unit. Why? Because she's a little bit high maintenance. Okay. She is a pain in the ass. She definitely comes in for her touch-up appointments. So, no one gets free Botox. It doesn't exist. So I get free Botox. I own the place. That's who gets it. But I'm paying all the other bills, right? So do keep in mind that you can't give discounts to all your friends, and all your friends are your low-hanging fruit, but they need to pay. And you will really get to see who's going to really support you with their dollars. And then the next step is growing that. So once you take care of the 20 people that are closest to you, you've got that next layer that's kind of hard to bring up. Like, how are you going to get them? Now we get back into needing someone like Megan for marketing. And what does that look like without blowing your budget? That's pretty small. So again, that goes back to what we're doing with the conference is we have 2 tracks, nail it and scale it. Nailing it is for people that are generating less than 6 figures a year and they're just getting started, or they're trying to, really get their operations down to get to that next level. And then scale it are people that have, made over 6 figures and they're trying to figure out how to really kind of get some business operations growing for them and scaling for them so that they can earn more and take home more money. So those are some things that we offer at the conference, but also within the Facebook group. We're always talking about like how to do these little things that are going to make these really gigantic impacts. You know, everyone, what's the book that, you know, the 1% rule, you know, where if you put 1% more energy into something, what that translates into over time is huge. Some of these little things, like having a great website, like investing in a little bit of marketing, can really pay dividends. So, which goes, okay, next one. Great. How much does it cost to get started? I would say that no matter what kind of business you're getting started with, the minimum entry is about $10,000 for training, getting your basic stuff up and running, a little bit of legal fees, your first order, you know, a few vials of product. You're not going to be starting this for less than $10,000. As far as like, say you want to, you're like, screw this, I want a location, I want 6 rooms. Well, I can tell you that it took me about $1 million. All right. $1 million to get the new office up and running and open with staff and build out and equipment and all the things. So it's somewhere between 10,000 and $1 million. And
I'll take 2.
You're gonna take 2? Yeah, exactly. But to get 1 room open, I would say probably $15,000 to $25,000 in added equipment, and a lot of that's inventory too. You need to get your products right, and granted, inventory is an asset, but you need to have some cash to get this going and to try. And I'm all for bootstrapping. I bootstrapped everything. I have not taken anything in the form of a business loan. This is all through cash flow, equity. Like that's how I did everything. So, and I didn't have an investor, and I didn't have Daddy Warbucks either. Grandpa did not come in with the saving like money bags. I wish, but, you just don't try and think that you can do this on hopefully a credit card. That's not the best way to go.
Yeah, agreed. You want to be in a solid financial starting spot, because everybody here watching this has great earning potential as an RN, as an NP. So you want to not risk the farm, as they say on this, and have some built up savings when you're getting into this, because we do have that great earning power in our traditional jobs. There's a really great article on injectablesedu.com that breaks down that $10,000 in cost into the nitty gritty. That's a good one to check out as well. That will really breaks down the cost of each individual item that goes into that $10,000. But both Suzanne and I started with that $10,000 model and grew to the full-blown deal. So I think a lot of people take that path. Yeah, I can put the link to the article in the chat for you guys. The other thing that makes me laugh on this slide is I'm like, don't go and hire younger blonde bombshell injectors to work with you, because then you're constantly photographed with them. We should probably just go to the next slide on that note. All right. This brings us a little bit into the whole why of Injectables EDU, as far as the website, the trainings, the conference. It's all about mentorship, because we've really seen firsthand mentorship makes all the difference in your success, both your enjoyment of this whole process and also the numbers. And I do a really great talk at the Injectables EDU Summit, where I take myself, Suzanne, 2 of our other really close injector friends, and I break it down from month 1 on through the first, 2 years, saying how much revenue we make per month, how much we spent, really get into the nitty gritty. And it's so cool because you can look and say, this is where I am on this graph. And you will see, the lines that represent myself, Suzanne, our other 2 friends. And the thing that will blow you away is to see my success growth path in comparison to Suzanne. Suzanne didn't have a Suzanne to mentor her. So Suzanne taught my very first class and has been an amazing mentor to me throughout this whole thing, and has made it so fun. And it has really, I've had success from day one because of it. And you will not have that without having some guidance and good information from people who have been there and done that. So it's really interesting to see how mentorship will just really skyrocket you. And it's so hard to find in this industry. And that's what's hard. It's not a welcoming community. And we're really trying to change that and make it a more welcoming community, because there's actually a lack of high quality injectors out there. And there's so many clients who are getting into it. It's becoming so much more mainstream. So I don't think that it's oversaturated with injectors by any means. I think there's a dearth of high quality, really good injectors, and that is still the case, and that it, just like there can be a hairstylist on every corner, it's becoming the same of Botox, in that there's such a high demand for it that we will benefit so much more from helping each other, networking, sharing information, and helping the next generation along, which is very counterintuitive to nursing, because we've always been very eat your young. But I think this is a new day, and that we can all benefit from sharing information. You can click forward for me. So the kind of in-person aspect of this ideal is why we created the Injectables EDU Summit. This is our second year for it. This year it is March 1st through the 3rd. It's in Orlando, Florida. It is at the beautiful Lake Nona Hotel, which is totally Instagram worthy. It's so fun. It's a great way to get away and enjoy yourself, and also bringing together this community. A great place to not only connect in person with Suzanne and myself, but we also have Justin Allen, who is the Elite NP. If you guys are familiar with any of his courses, they're really high quality, and all cash-based services that nurses and nurse practitioners can start. And then Ronna Kennelly, she's definitely a superstar in the injecting world. If you don't know her already, then you definitely should check her out, and check out her Patreon is an amazing resource that we recommend to everybody. So I was doing a consultation call last night, and I told this person, and I completely believe it, that if you invest in one thing for yourself this year, it should be this conference. It will pay for itself tenfold, if not more. But I had talked to somebody earlier, and they're like, oh, I can't, just invested in this like Brazilian butt lift injector class, and it was $2,000. And I was genuinely sad, because I was like, you know how many people I have coming through the door to get their Brazilian butt lift with Sculptra? Almost nobody. Versus this is such crucial information to grow in this field. I was like, this is misdirected funds. This is something that's truly worth the investment, and that we're so excited about. So we have some new exciting stuff for this year, which is cool. I'm
going to interject one thing that I see a lot about other conferences that we don't do is one, we just give you the information. There is no upsell here. There's no like, oh, go and, we're just going to give you what the content is. When you read the agenda and what we do, we're not trying to like sell you our book or some ridiculous service package that goes on forever, or that's what a lot of these conferences had become, is this like, I'm going to just give you a piece of it, but the real information is behind this gate that you have to pay thousands of dollars more for. None of that. We're just going to show you the stuff and give you all the numbers and details, and off you go. Anyway, just wanted to throw that out there.
Yeah, it's very practical and numbers heavy, which I love, because both of us love numbers.
Love numbers.
So we have the launching track, and we have the scaling track, and Suzanne already hit on these a little bit. So whether it's that you haven't even taken a class, or you've just taken your first injecting class, but you're brand new, you're going to be on that launch portion. And then if you already have your business started, maybe you're mobile, maybe you're leasing, you've got some clients, but you would like to grow this, you would like to get out of your clinic, you would like to get that first 50K month, you want to make this your full-time thing and make it lucrative, you're going to be on our Scale It track. You are not committed to one track or the other. So you can pop into different lectures in either track. When you come, we will ask you which one you're interested in, but you have complete freedom to pop into particular lectures in either track that appeals to you. Another really exciting thing that we do is mastermind group. That's at the very end of the conference. And those are also going to be, they're very mindfully put together by region. They're put together by where you're at in your business. And we are also connecting you with your mastermind group on day one when you get there. So I've been to a lot of aesthetic conferences. Oftentimes I feel a little bit like odd man out. Sometimes I don't feel like I fit the mold of what an aesthetic provider is. A lot of times I feel like people still are not open arms, and people are really more there to show off rather than connect. And this is all about truly connecting, sharing, getting with your people, and hopefully setting a foundation for you to continue those relationships. Suzanne and I, with multiple of our friends, we talk to each other every single day and support each other on this journey, and ask questions like, oh, I have this client who this, and I saw this complication. Suzanne and I are always here for you guys to reach out to us if you have whatever complication you may have. Most things don't need that experienced mentor reach out. A lot of it's just support, and have you seen this, and have you been through that, and being on this journey with somebody else, other friends. Makes it so much more enjoyable. I liken it to when you have a new infant, all you want to do is talk about how much it ate and slept and pooped and how much you slept. And your friends and family, they only want to hear so much of that, right? You know who loves talking about that? Other new moms. And this is your new baby, this business, and other people who have that business. It is also their joy to mastermind with you as much as possible on this. So those are some exciting things that we have for sure for the conference. And you can go forward for me. I see Susie just asked how many attendees are we expecting? We cut it off at a max of 100 to 125. So that would be amazing if we get that. I wouldn't be shocked if we get up there this year, but we keep it intentionally very small so everybody can really connect. We have an optional hands-on training day on the Friday of the conference. So if you need more hands-on training for talks, or you haven't taken a talks class, this is going to be a foundational course. You guys see that we have those coupon codes on the last slide for the 2-day summit. On this one, if you do the 2-day summit and you add on the hands-on talks class. When you guys sign up for this class, it is the same content in class that you would get if you traveled to see us in Richmond or Portland or Atlanta or Chicago. It's that same class. You're going to have access to all the online didactic ahead of time, and that's a mandatory requirement of it. And all the hands-on is the same. This is just the same version of our class, but we're holding it at the conference. I'm gonna advance me. And so I'm gonna pass it back over to Megan to kind of lead the Q&A for us, and I'll take a peek in the chat box of some of the questions that have come up too.
Yes, thank you. What I love so much, and I was at the conference last year, I'm going to be again there this year. If you were with me last year, I went like a whole hour over my time because I had so much marketing to share with you. So I'm going to be there for, I think I have like 3 to 4 speaking sessions this year. But what I love so much about this conference is that they're going to make it to where you don't have that anxiety walking into a cold room. And I, even as a speaker, like I get anxiety about that. And so that's what I love so much, is that you're going to have a buddy, you're going to meet somebody the moment you walk in, and you can feel really comfortable at the beginning. So we have a live Q&A coming up right now. Please put your question in if you haven't already. If you filled out the Zoom link for us and gave us your question there, I literally have all 4 pages printed out. When I said we had 200 questions in, I did not lie. You guys are phenomenal. I know you have a lot of questions. Probably during this call, things are bubbling up. Again, we will probably not get to it on this call, but the goal is we're logging all of these so we can put out more Facebook Lives and actually drill into what you need to know by getting that question from, or that answer from Suzanne and Cassie. Now, like they said, there are those coupon codes. If you didn't write them down, that is not a big deal, because when I send out the recording for the webinar this week, you're also going to see in that email those two coupon codes. So that will be for you to use. And then you're also, again, like, these women don't stop. I don't know if they sleep or they don't sleep, but we have another sort of email course, a free course. It's the aesthetic business break free roadmap. So we get it. You want to, you know, make some changes in your career where you're going right now. And so they're going to give you an email course that's going to drip you through all of the free resources that are available to you on Injectables EDU, as well as in the Facebook group, because we know it can be kind of hard to go back in time and see all those goodies. So they have put all of this together. It's really going to be easy to skim, get that resource you need, keep moving forward, and keep checking off the list of what you need to do and what you just honestly need to be aware of from a compliance standpoint. I know they mentioned that earlier on the call, that there's some things that are kind of hidden that you do need to know. If you are going to be a business owner, you legally have to know these things. And so they're going to make sure that you feel confident and you feel prepared. So this is all going to be coming to you starting this week, as well as through early next week. So check your email boxes for that. In that email series, like I said, you're going to get the links for all of the information that you need, but you're also going to get the link to join that private Facebook group. That way you can see some additional videos from Suzanne that she puts out. Now, a couple times they've mentioned these mentoring calls. So this is how you're going to get an invite to get your free mentoring call. Suzanne and Cassie are very generous with their time. Every month they put out a link so you can get 20 minutes with them to maybe you do have like a question that's just really unique and you really need to drill in, and you're not finding that support on Injectables EDU, and you're not finding that on the private Facebook group. This is your chance to really get that support where you're probably going to need it for your business. Okay, with that, let me just go ahead and start diving into the questions that we have. I've already highlighted a handful of them. And I know that some of them have been kind of touched on already, but one of probably the biggest one that I saw over and over and over again, and we'll see it too in the Facebook group. This one's coming from Elizabeth from Colorado. She asked, what are the most cost-effective marketing tools other than word of mouth? I had another comment in here too that also said, please tell me I don't have to do social media to grow my business. And put a little wink smiley face on that one. So I would love for whoever wants to take this one just to drill in and give your kind of perspective of what you think is some great ways to keep the cost down, but also drive that new business.
I'll let Suzanne take that one. I did want to address, I saw a couple things in the chat box like about the actual conference questions. There's a question about, are we offering the conference online? We have our basic Botox and filler and multiple other courses available online, but the Injectables EDU Summit is only in person. The in-person part is the most important part for this. This is our community building portion of it. So I know it's a bummer because we only have it once a year, but this specific thing is only in person or in Orlando. There was a great question. I'm an RN who recently started in aesthetics. Is this a good start for me? There was another person that said, I want to enter the field, but I have no prior training or experience. Is this conference a good place for me? Yes and yes. So that Nail It track is for you, Jenna, who you have zero prior experience, zero prior training. I would recommend you take the hands-on class also on Friday. And then Jocelyn, you said you recently started in aesthetics, so maybe you've already feeling pretty comfortable with the actual Botox injections. Maybe you don't need that hands-on portion, but you're trying to grow or really get the business started. It's great for you. And that person who even is already full-time doing this, but you want to grow and increase how much you're making, this is appropriate for you as well. It's very catered to those different points. So sorry that I derailed a little bit, but I wanted to make sure that I answered those. I probably totally made you forget the original question, Suzanne. Do you
totally did. So refresh me again, Megan. What are something about marketing?
So a lot of the questions were kind of more guerrilla marketing, right? How can I keep my costs down? but also get out there and let people know I've got these great services. And one comment in particular was like, oh, sweet Lord, I cannot do social media. Tell me that's not part of this. So
You're speaking to the anti-social media queen who doesn't even know her Instagram login. Okay. So, yeah, here's the thing with guerrilla marketing and going on a small budget. There's a couple of things that are really, really, really important. One is word of mouth. The most free thing that you can do is talk about what you do now. And I like to give the example of I went shopping for a sweater. This is a true story, down the street. And I was like, oh my God, the sweater is going to be great for me to wear to work. And they say, oh, where do you work? I'm like, oh, I own a med spa and I do injections now. And they're like, oh my God, you do Botox. Oh, I need a new Botox injector. Then called over two of the other sales girls and boom, 3 clients, right? Like so random that it's just because I'm talking about it. I even got a new client out of the gal doing my mammogram. Why? Because when she's pinching my boob, my face didn't scale. She's like, you have no wrinkles. How is that? Well, funny enough, guess what I do? I inject Botox. No way. Oh my God. So while I'm getting a mammogram, I'm picking up a client. Okay. Word of mouth is the cheapest, easiest way. And it's way more fun and interesting to talk about the fact that you're an injector than it is to talk about the fact that you like do whatever you do in nursing, because that's not fun anymore. Right. Okay. So number one, word of mouth, super free too. Love it. Number 2, and this is an investment, is get a good website. Now, I don't care anything about your social media if you do not have a website, because if you just have social media, that's great. They're following you. Likes are not business. Likes are not converted into leads. Leads then become patients, right? So you got to have a website that people can book with you on in order to convert those clients. And the social media aspect is driving people to your website. So just because Wix says, oh, build your own website in 20 minutes at home on your couch, honey, no. Like it doesn't work that way. You didn't go to if someone didn't go to like nursing school or, watch Grey's Anatomy and they're like, I totally got this. That's essentially like the same thing as deciding that you're going to watch a 30-minute, YouTube video, make your own website that's going to actually be found on Google and convert patients. You need a professional. Hiring and investing in good help is going to be important. And I'm not saying you need to have the most robust website. If you have one really good page, that is going to be way better than whatever you can build on your own time from the comfort of your couch. Because unless you went to website school, please don't think that you can do all things, because you can't. So,
and we will for sure continue to deep dive this.
yes.
That's the whole conference is about. I see so many questions coming in and I want to answer every single one. And I looked at our time. I mean, we're already over time for what we had.
Oh, are we? Oh, darn it. Sorry.
So I don't know, Megan, if you want us to do one more question or.
Oh yeah, I think we need to definitely do some work. Do you guys have?
Yeah.
Is that good?
Go.
Okay, so this is an easy one, but I see this come up a lot and you touched on it a little bit. It's what type of physical space do I need in order to receive my Botox shipment? So especially if they're starting out big, you need your product. How are they going to do that, if they're mobile?
Cassie?
Is it how are you going to receive your product if you're mobile? How are you going to
shipments?
Yeah, this is a really big question that comes up a lot. One piece of advice I have is you can get a little creative. It just needs to be a business location typically. So even if you have your dentist or maybe your clinic that you work at, if they'll let you ship there, or they're usually not that picky with shipping locations as long as it's not residential. It could be a hair place. It could be really any business. But there isn't much of a workaround. Like you've got to find some sort of business location to ship it to. It doesn't necessarily have to be a doctor's office or a spa. It needs to be some sort of business. I will say some of the companies, they do have, if you order under a certain dollar amount and you send them a picture of your fridge, there are some workarounds to getting it shipped to your home. But they make it pretty difficult and not every tox company is going to allow that.
We had another question come in about the best injection chair that they should purchase. I'm just going to say, don't even spend time answering that. It's on our Instagram page. We have a full link where we talk about the exact model that you guys love and where to purchase that. So just go to Injectables EDU on Instagram and you'll find that post. And then I think this one is probably going to touch for everybody. And I think it goes back to there's so many issues at hand, right? Imposter syndrome. Like, can I really do this? Feeling confident. Can I convince my spouse that this is the right decision to pivot? I think for a lot of us, that's a big one too, right? You're disrupting a little bit of the family for a little bit as you pivot. And that's just a natural part of this. So the question is from Nicole from Ohio. She says, when should you feel confident to leave your full-time job to focus on your part-time business? Is there a certain amount of money or patience you should have before doing this, before making the big jump?
Suzanne has a good metric on this, which I'll let you share, but that comment made me laugh because my husband later told me he didn't really realize I was serious about this until I came to him after I had been doing this for a year and was like, I think it's time for me to go PRN with my full-time job. And he said that was at the point that he was like, oh, I guess she's serious about this.
Yeah. My husband, who was a NASA engineer and was not like, what was I doing? He was not thrilled. He's like, I left a pension, like to do something else. So I understand about the spousal support. When as it becomes a numbers thing, so there's two things. One is numbers, like really figuring out how much money are you bringing in, how much money is going out, and how much money do you get to take home of that? Like, this is knowing your numbers, which is like the whole point of the conference, so that you have some real concrete evidence that your business is growing in the right direction and that you can proportionally put more effort into it when you put your time and focus on it to grow it. Our friend Austin, who presented last year, was a great example of, she had a reasonable confidence that her business was growing. And if she put more time and effort into it and her energy and focus, because where intention goes, energy goes, and you can then exponentially grow your business because your time and energy is there and not diverted doing other things. So it's looking at those things.
And if you're booked out, I've heard you say if you're booked out for about 2 weeks, is that one metric that
I love that. If you are booked out 2 weeks, then you have a really good solid footing in the right direction to be able to phase down. Hopefully it's a phase down situation. A lot, in healthcare, they're so desperate for staff anymore that you may have to switch jobs to be able to go PRN so that you can still dabble 1 or 2 days a week in that W-2 job to get that income going. I love that the most, is when you can phase down. I went from full-time to 0.8 to 0.6 to 0.4 to 0.2 to PRN.
Well, here's the other crazy thing that I've seen time and time again, and I saw it with myself because I personally wasn't booked out by any means when I decided to switch and pretty much go completely into working for my aesthetics practice. I was at a personal kind of breaking point where something had to give, and I knew it wasn't going to be the business. Yeah. So for me, it was a personal bandwidth choice when I did it. And it's funny, the more time and energy you dedicate to your business, the more you will explode. So it's kind of like a weird catch-22, where the more energy and love you put into the business, you will see that output. And so that's hard because you've got to open up time for more clients and you've got to put in more time and energy and money for it to grow. That's where a little bit of that financial stability is important, where you say to yourself, okay, I'm going to give this 3 to 6 months and I have built up my funds that I can do that based on what I'm bringing in from the business now, that I can make it 3 to 6 months. I'm going to give myself this window to really do this in the business and go after it and see if I can make this work. There is a little bit of risk in it too, because a lot of nurse practitioners, and in particular, don't have so much flexibility of the 0.8 and the 0.6. And,
yeah, it's true.
Typically the CRNAs and nurses have a little bit more of that like hourly type flexibility to go down.
Yeah. And just realize also that it's not a linear response curve. Like, income is not it is a lagging indicator. Like, you're going to jump into this and you are probably going to lose money before you make money, right? It's like going to the gym. It is hard for months before you start getting stronger and you don't want to do it, right? But you're investing in that future growth. And so understanding that it's not like, oh, I'm going to do this and all of a sudden make more money. It's probably going to get worse before it gets better. And that is normal and expected. And it doesn't mean you did it wrong or that you should be doing something else. Like, that's not it. It's an investment for growth.
So a lot of the other questions that are coming in are probably going to take a bit more to unravel. Some of them are, hey, I've been doing this for a while. I'm really struggling finding clients, growing family and friends. And I think that's, I mean, honestly, it's such a big question to really
it's a hard one.
unravel. It's a hard one. And there's a lot of layers. And that's what's probably the most frustrating part about marketing. It's not black and white. There's a lot of gray, and it really depends on your business, how it's currently set up, and where are your gaps. What are you missing that's having an issue with that conversion? And so honestly, I'm going to have to go back to say that's where the summit comes in, because then you get access to me after hours. You get access to hear what is involved in that. And that's why I think most people are so frustrated when it comes to the marketing part, because they're like, I listen to these gurus on Instagram. I'm following all the tips, and the needle is not moving. And yeah, because that's just that's blanket generic advice, and that's really hard to get that to really work towards your business with your differentiators for your business. And if you don't know what that means, then again, you got to get to the summit if you don't have differentiators for your business. So with that, we are definitely at time. We went over. Thanks, ladies, for hanging on though for the Q&A. That's really important. And then let's go ahead. If you have any other questions, here it is, injectablesedu.com. There, the links for Instagram, for Facebook. That's where you're going to get all the information. Shoot us a DM if you got some other questions. And thank you guys so much for hanging on. And thank you, Cassie and Suzanne, for just always sharing it. Appreciate it.
I'm going to say, don't delay, get your ticket, because we very well could run out of tickets. So do this for yourself and don't wait. Just go do it. See you soon.
And our cocktail parties are amazing, and we get a DJ and we dance. If I can just say that, that's the best part.
Invest in you. Thank you, everybody.
Invest in you and your dance party. Awesome.
Thanks,
thank you, ladies and gentlemen.